Okay, so hi again. So we're going to make pastry. And this is not fancy French butter pastry. It's not pâté sablé, which is the butter, the really shortbread kind of crust that you use for the tarte citron or for tarte tatin or that kind of thing. This is good old-fashioned lard pastry that's for mincemeat tarts and for, that's what we're making today, and for tortillere and for a good old-fashioned fruit pie, flaky, 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 and kind of no fail. Tender flake, that's why it's called tender flake. Like, it's really made for pastry. It's like, if you're vegan, forget about it. You're not making this pastry. Okay, you need that. So the secrets to pastry are cold, light hand, and the enemies of pastry are also its friends. It's got this love-hate relationship with water and with your hands. You need them both, but you have to be very moderate and sparing with the use of both water and your hands. So the first, your friend, you've all got a box grater. I froze my lard, but I took it out a little while ago because if you use it straight out of the freezer, my arm can't take it. It's like hard work. So it's good and cold, but not completely frozen. And that way it's not too hard to grate. And I'm just going to grate the whole thing. We're going to make enough pastry to have 6 discs that you can keep in the fridge or the freezer and use them when you need them. So you might as well make the whole pound at once. Why wouldn't you? Now, if you're stronger than me, you can go ahead and grate it frozen, but for me, that is like too hard of work. It'll just take a second. I learned this from Michael Smith, actually. You know Michael Smith, the chef from down east? A really good hack. Okay. So that is the right size of pieces of fat. I do that with butter too, if I'm making a butter pastry. Okay, got all that in there. Now, the tender flake recipe, this is a modified tender flake recipe. It says 5½ cups of all-purpose or 6 cups of cake and pastry. So I meet it in the middle. So we're going to do, I'm just going to wipe my hands. We're going to do 3 cups of all-purpose. And for my British friends, I'm sorry, I do not have a pastry recipe that uses weights, which would be so much better. It really would be. But the rule is you spoon out your flour, right? Not dip the cup in, because the recipes are calibrated for doing it this way. So 1, my all-purpose, right? Yeah. 2, 3, and then meeting in the middle is going to be 2 3/4 of cake and pastry. One, 2, 2½, 2 3/4. Okay, that's that. You're going to want to put your hands in there right now. Try not to, because I said your hands, you're going to need them, but they're the enemy. So we want to use as little as possible. I like a big meat fork for this, like a good strong fork, and just move that around a little bit with your hands, a little bit with the fork, until what you're trying to do is coat the fat with the flour. So here I said, don't put your hands in, and I put them in your hands in. Bobby, come here, hon. I need him to hold up the computer so you can see what I'm doing. My hands are too floury to pick up my computer. Can you just hold the, go to the back?
Yeah.
Hold the computer up so that it's pointing down towards this bowl, please.
Okay.
Up there. Okay. So the reason your hands are your enemy here is because they're warm, and we don't want to melt the fat. So I have to pull some of the pieces apart because they're kind of stuck with my fingers. But as much as possible, I want to not warm it up too much. So that's, you know, even if you're using your hands, think about, okay, is this getting warm? I don't want to smush it. And you're not really, and you're just trying to coat the fat in the flour, not really work it in. There will always be some bigger bits left, and that is perfectly fine. You just want, like, that's too big. That bit there is too big. But most of this is just right now. Okay, I forgot salt. You do need some salt in here. So I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon of salt. Now, ice water. Okay, I think you can put that down, huh? Just for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had that sitting with ice in it, so it's really cold. 1 cup of water. Never mind the vinegar, the egg, all that other stuff that they tell you on the Tender Flake package. They're of no use, and they don't improve the pastry. Just water, just a cup. Now, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and I used to say it too. Like, 1 cup of water is not enough to make this so that I can roll it out. But if you put any more water than that, it's going to make the pastry mealy and not flaky. So again, I'm using my fork, but I want to be able to roll it out without having a heart attack, which for decades, making a pie was an all afternoon event with many panic attacks because it wouldn't roll out. It would all break up. So lo and behold, I found out there is another perfectly good liquid that I can put in here. It is not water, the enemy of pastry, but will allow me to roll it out. And that's vodka. Not because vodka adds any good flavor or anything like that, because it adds liquid without adding water. And the alcohol is going to burn off. So it's perfect. So about a 1/4 cup. Adding that extra 1/4 cup that is going to make my life easy. And then I'm going to make a martini later. Of course, it's going to be a Cosmo because I like everything with fruit flavor. So that extra 1/4 cup, mix it in. And now this whole thing, I'm going to dump out on the counter. Okay, you can tip up the whole thing on the counter. And just start to pull it together. Are you seeing this okay? Yeah. Like I say, you need your hands, but you're trying not to add heat to this. If your pastry is beginning to go beige, you're adding too much heat. It should, you want it to stay, if it's staying nice and white, it's still good. There we go. We're getting a really nice clump. So you know, a little bit I'm squishing it to bring it together, but not too much. So it's all about moderation on this. Okay, that's pretty good. Now this is going to make 6 discs. I didn't get out my weigher. I found about 230 grams is about the right weight to get it evenly in 6, but I'll just do a rough here. Good thing this, tip it up a little bit. This is a really good thing to have for making pastry. It has many uses. So I'm going to make this into 6 somewhat equal discs. Make each one of these now into a good ball. This one you can use your hands on a little bit more. Squish it into a good ball, like that. You got a nice ball. And put your plastic wrap. I lost the cutter on that box. Okay, so loosely wrap it in plastic wrap. And then squish it down. Look. Perfectly smooth little disc. This is going right in the fridge. You cannot roll it out yet. Don't get rushy, Anna. It has to go in the fridge. You're going to put all 6 of these in the fridge. Okay, all 6 of them go in the fridge in those discs to chill. And at least 2 hours, but better is overnight. And you can put them directly in the freezer to use another time if you're not going to use them right away. Right at that point, put them in the freezer. When you want to roll them out, take them out about 20 minutes before you want to roll them, and then they'll roll out beautifully. I'm just going to roll these up, and then by the magic of television, ta-da! I have some right here, already chilled. No, where's the one that's chilled? This one. Already chilled, so I can roll it out for you now. I made some yesterday, so that I could have the magic of television. I had this when I was softening for a while, and then it was getting too soft, so I put it back in. You need to give it a couple of minutes. Okay, let's get a nice spot here. Okay, I'm going to roll this out now. I used to just roll on the counter. I just got myself this at Lee Valley recently, this rolling mat. You don't have to have one, but it's a fancy new thing that I got myself. Fit here. Let me wash my hands, guys. There's multiple kinds of rolling pins as well. This is you can put that up a little bit, huh? Mm-hmm. Just put it down. Just put it down. Mm-hmm. This is the standard one with handles. You know what I have found though? Dirt gets in that crevice right there, and I clean it and clean it and clean it, and I still find little daubs of dirt in my pastry. It's pissing me off, this one, I gotta tell you. So I've gone back to a French style that has no handles, no place for the dirt to gather. Okay. A little bit of flour on the mat. You can lift that back up so people can see. A bit of flour on there. And this is absolutely going to roll out beautifully for you. Try and keep it as round as you can while you're rolling. So go in multiple directions. Let me put something on there to hold that down. Okay. So this kind of a rolling pin is your, you don't have handles, right? You have to roll it like this. There. See, okay? Yeah. So this mat is nice because it gives me a sense of the round and the size. And I'm going to go for this one with the 12-inch diameter here. And then I'm going to cut it out for tarts. Now, if you wanted to put that in a pie, there's multiple ways to get into a pie plate. You can roll it up on your rolling pin like this. Just roll it up like that and then put the pie plate there and unroll it right onto the pie plate. You can fold it. This tool really helps to lift it, you know, so any way that you want to get it into the pie plate. But today we're making mince tarts, so I'm going to cut the tarts. I've got some already ready to go. There you go. I'm going to add some to it. These are the big ones, but I'm also going to make little tiny ones because they're really good too in a little pan like this. Bob, tilt it back. There you go. There's one that makes the little tiny ones. I'm going to get some of those after as well. Anyway, it's just a matter of cutting them out. They're quite a bit bigger than the tart pan itself. Oh, that's quite thick. Oh, not that one. This needs more rolling. Nope, it doesn't. Just that bit was thick. I'm just going to roll this one out and recut it. It's too thick. Now, what I was going to say is the first rolling is the best rolling, okay? You can do a second rolling, maybe for your lids, but forget about a third rolling. Don't ever do a third rolling. It'll be tough as anything. You just don't want to do that. The second rolling is tougher than the first as well. So, cut. And shape. And then I'm going to cut out some shapes to go on top because for mince tarts, mince meat is so strong that you want a lot of pastry. So a top is good. Stars are cute. Star on what? I've got Christmas trees. I've got little just circles. And then that'll just go in the oven. Now, I have to say, mincemeat was hard to find this year, and it was last year too. What I learned was, they told me at the grocery store, there's really only one company that makes Cross and Blackwell, President's Choice, E.D. Smith, it's all the same company. And they weren't making it. So this year, I did manage to find some Robertsons. I was all set to make my own, though, if I hadn't found it. I don't think it's that hard, but it does need to age a bit. So you have to get on that if you're going to make your own. Fill them about that full. Put a little star on top. Didn't I cut a star already? I'm going to cut a Christmas tree. And another little circle. And then that's going to pop in the oven at 425 for about, you put it down. 425 for just about 10 minutes, and then turn it down to 350 and let it finish, how long? Another 20 to 25 minutes, check on it, see how brown they're getting, okay? And that's it. That's all there is to it. I'm not going to finish all this right now. We're going to open up to talk to everybody now. So put your Microphone's on if you want.
Great stuff. Thanks, Sandy.
Yeah. Did you learn anything new?
No,
all sorts of.
I think we've been making pastry a long time, like you. So my thing would be that I turn the pastry when I'm rolling it, so you're not always flattening one corner. Because ideally, it would be our weight would be even, but it's not, right? We're down here, so my teacher taught me to turn it a quarter turn every time you get so far.
That's a really good tip. And actually, I do that too. Today, you know, that wasn't happening with my mat. And oh, look at that nice rolling pin.
This
Well, yeah, I just
got one too.
show everybody that if you want cold, this is the best. I mean, I found this in an antique store, but literally it's glass and it has a little top like that, and you fill it with ice water and you're away to the races. You know what I mean?
Amazing. I've never seen one of those before, Lynn.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's possibly an antique, because it wasn't an antique store, but I'm sure you could find these online. But it is kind of brilliant because it, you know, it's just, it's just cool. That's all I say. Okay, so the thing that I learned, God bless you, is to do the lard with a cheese grater rather than a pastry cutter.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Brilliant and easy.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier. And the other thing that I love that I do is that I put, once the pastry is ready to go into the little circle, I put it directly on wax paper, because I don't have one of your fancy rolling mats, a floured wax paper, and wrap that up and put it in the oven so that when I have to take it out to roll it, it's already on the wax paper. If you don't have one of those groovy mats, which I kind of want for Christmas now.
Yeah, I got it, Lee Valley. The only thing is it does move around on me a lot.
Well, the other thing is I find so does wax paper, but if you wet the counter,
yeah,
it won't move as much.
Right. You're not going to get it. And you would be able to turn the pastry. If you flour that, you can turn the pastry, as Fiona was saying, which I would normally have done as well. Actually, I'm not all that good with the French one. I've always used one with handles, but this morning when I was doing it, and honestly, I had cleaned it and cleaned it and cleaned it, and it still was giving me little bits of black gunk. So I said, you're retired.
I also have a marble one, which is terrific.
Yeah.
And I used to have a marble board until Sean dropped it on the floor and broke it in half.
Well, I hope he didn't break his foot.
No, he missed his foot. He just broke the board in half. But a marble, and marble ones are the same. I mean, Sean's gone away, or else I'd show you it. But because it's in my kitchen, it has the handles, but it rolls it rolls independently of the handles.
Right. So does my wooden one. Carolyn, what did you learn? Carolyn, can you hear?
Everybody's frozen on mine.
Oh dear.
I learned everything because I've never made pastry. So.
Oh, a newbie.
Yeah, so that was great, Sandy. And the only thing I missed the measurements for the flour.
Okay.
I got everything else.
Okay. Well, I will. Oh, there's Lynn's got her knitting out. That'll Fiona.
This has been great. I'm like knitting and baking at the same time.
Amazing. Look at Fiona. Fiona's a big knitter. She's a knitting designer.
Oh, wow. Hi, Fiona.
You've probably heard of her, Fiona Ellis.
Yeah. Wow. Hi.
Yeah. I said her name one time in a knitting, with a bunch of women knitting. And I went, oh, you know Fiona Ellis. Anyway, yeah, so I'll put it on my blog, but it's 3 cups of all-purpose and 2 3/4 of cake and pastry. Who else does that? A mix of the 2 kinds of flour. Do you do that, Lynn?
No.
What do you use?
I just use all-purpose flour.
Yeah, I have for years just used all-purpose, but my mom actually did a mix,
And the other thing is I always use Crisco. I never have used Tenderflake.
Oh, well, try the tender flake. I much prefer it to Crisco.
Really? You don't like Crisco? Wow, I've used it all my entire life, and it makes the most beautiful flaky paste crust. But now I'm going to try Tenderflake because I've never used it before.
There you go.
Okay.
What do you use, Fiona? Rob?
We're butter pastry people.
Oh, you just do butter. Yeah, okay.
What's the difference between tender flake and Crisco?
Crisco is vegetable shortening, and
I'm just trying to know which one was
this
which.
is lard.
Flake is lard.
It's lard.
My mom always uses lard, like just meat lard. You can buy it in England in just a slab like you buy butter.
Yeah. Yep. That's
Andy,
I've had the best luck with
my favorite
butter,
to
but
is if I
butter with a bit of Crisco.
Yeah,
Sort of,
that's two. Half and half.
Half and half.
yeah. A lot
Yeah.
of people do that. Yeah, Rob.
I was just going to say my favorite tip is to, if you need to trim pastry or you need to just trim edges or something, just keep a cold knife and run it under the tap, cold water, and it won't stick to the pastry, it won't pull it or anything like that. It just ruts right through it
Oh, that's good too.
really well.
That's really good.
Oh,
I didn't hear that clearly.
Oh, thankfully. If I need to trim pastry, like around the outside of a pie plate or trim a piece, I use just a cold knife, run under the tap, cold tap, and it just it doesn't pull the pastry. It doesn't stick to it. It just comes right.
Very good. Yeah, very good. Thank you. That's a good tip.
Yeah. So many good tips. And you can
I
see
love it.
people get to know over the years, figure out what works for them, what recipe works for them. That's, I used to say, I would work, like back in the days when it was giving me a heart attack, that, I kept trying, but if I really wanted a good pie, I went home and my mother ate my mother's pie. And I had a theory that you needed to be over 50 to make decent pastry. And bingo bongo, around the age of 50, my kids started to say that they like my pastry better than my mother's.
Wow.
And my son-in-law, who is just adorable, and we love him to pieces, Darren, one time he was given the very tough question of asking him whose butter tarts did he like better, his wife's or his mother-in-law's. Like, really?
So which bar did he go to?
And you know what he said? He said, Al, I like my wife's filling better and my mother-in-law's pastry better.
darn it.
oh.
Very politic.
So, yeah.
Very politic.
Sandra, will you show us how to make butter tarts someday? Just the filling, because I don't know how to do that.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's the simplest thing of all. So you're just gonna make tarts like this. The filling, you put in whatever you're gonna put in, raisins or pecans, a few of those in the bottom. It's half a cup of syrup. It can be maple syrup or corn syrup.
Right.
Syrup. Half a cup of brown sugar. 1 egg.
Yeah.
About a tablespoon of vinegar, a little vanilla, and a couple of good tablespoons, dollops of soft butter. Whisk it all up and pour that in. That's all it is.
Thank you. Are you recording this? Oh, good. Yes, you are. Okay, good.
That is the simplest thing ever. That is, and half a cup of each. That makes a dozen big size tarts.
Thank you.
That's all it is.
Sorry, I'm so Canadian, a butter tart, and I can't believe I don't know how to make one.
Yeah.
I've never made one.
Yeah, it's just, you're just pouring the filling in. And just be careful because don't overfill them because they tend to go, and then.
Right. Okay.
I've had all the filling pop right out of the pan.
Can I tell you too that a butter crust, a pure butter crust, is fabulous if you're for quiche.
Oh.
I like it better for quiche, and Sean makes a mean one. My husband makes a mean quiche. But it's absolutely lovely on quiche as opposed to this kind of pastry or cakey pastry. It's really a nice kind of crisp thing happens.
The other thing, so I have recently learned to make pastry, a butter pastry, adding the leavings of the sourdough. Outstanding, because sourdough makes everything crisper.
Yeah.
So it's really good. I've learned that one recently. I do make a butter pastry. And the other trick that, which is a little more advanced for Carolyn, say, because she's a newbie, is to do a blind bake. It's not hard, but I just keep white beans, the right amount, in a Ziploc bag that I use over and over in the cupboard. Just line your pie crust with parchment paper, put in the beans, and give it a good blind bake for about, at a high temperature for about, what is it? Rob will correct me on this, I'm sure, about 15 minutes. Maybe then you take the beans out and give it another 10 to brown it up a little bit. Then you've got a blind baked bottom crust and it will never be soggy. And that's, so it's really good for many, many kinds of pie. You want to do a blind bake first. You look like
Sandy,
you don't do a blind bake, Lynn.
No, I never do. I guess, first of all, because I guess I always use also a glass or Pyrex pie plate, never metal, or I don't like metal for pies. I like the glass or Pyrex. So I've never done that. Also, I love when you're doing particularly a fruit pie that you've put some flour in the mixture that you're adding in the fruit so that it has that lovely kind of creamy, gooey bottom. Even though the bottom is really crusty and flaky, but there's a little layer on top that's kind of yummy, creamy.
Yeah.
I'm here with Fiona Ellis, and she's got a top tip on blind baking. Fiona, what do you think?
Who are these two? They're adorable.
I'm so glad you asked that, Rob. I always prick the case before I put the beans, the parchment and the beans on. And that way, if you get a spot where the bean's not holding it down, the air gets out of the pastry and it doesn't pop up.
What do you put in? Sorry, I missed the thing.
Prick it with a fork.
Oh, prick it with a fork. Oh, I forgot that bit. Yeah. Prick it, of course. Forgot that bit. Yep. Prick it with a fork.
Sandy, do you always put the oven at 425 and then put it down to 350, or is that just with tarts?
No, all pies, especially with tarts, less time.
Everybody's
At
frozen again.
425, 450, all pies.
All pie, and then turn it down?
Yes. Oh, because you know what you're doing is it's the high heat. The pockets, the little bits of fat that are still blobs are going.
Oh, okay.
That's what makes it flaky.
So you turn it down right away?
Not right away.
Not right away.
10 to 15 minutes at the high.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, and then turn it. But that's what's doing it, right? That's popping the fat.
Butter. Okay. Or the lard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. So I wore my Queen of Tarts. Did you see that?
Yes. I didn't notice.
We're not making any
Anna and I were together in Dublin.
I caught the pocket of mine on the counter.
We were at this shop in Dublin, and I just had to have the paper.
That was the first thing I bought.
Well, all right. So is everybody kind of pastried out?
Thank you, Sandy. Sandra,
So lovely to see you.
very nice. And
Nice to see you.
I just say goodbye.
Nice to meet you, Lynn.
And-
I'm looking at the cat.
Sandy,
Oh,
Sandy, are you gonna do the Christmas spread next week?
Remind me what I said I would do. I think
I forgot if it's
I
next
did
week or the week
did I
after.
say I would do the bread next week and the sticky toffee pudding on the final week. I think
just
that's
a
how I did
second.
it.
I've got
Maybe.
it somewhere, I think.
I think that's what I said. So yes. Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
Thanks, Sandy. That was great.
Bye.
Make tarts.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Hey,
Bye.
Becky.
Love you.